Hey everyone, I'm going to tell you all about how much I spend in a month here in Texas area. So of course, I'm going to pull up my personal capital app, which happens to aggregate all of my financials, like my bank accounts, my credit cards, my investments, all that stuff all in one app. It's going to be right here. If I look at this month right here, I spent $5,800. Now you may be thinking, oh my gosh, that's money. Or some of you may be thinking, my gosh, that's not enough money. But I'm going to give you a little bit of background here. So I actually work in IT as my main job, and I'm clearing over $150,000 a year in management in IT. And aside from that, I do have a lot of other side income streams, of course, which will contribute into the $5,800. So of course, there's going to have to be some expenses paid out of that and all that. So the number's a bit skewed because I still have all these other income sources that are still pulling out the budget, but all in all, about $5,800 there. So first off, I do want to talk about my mortgages, which happens to be my biggest category here. My mortgages came out to $3,649, and y'all may be thinking, I live in a big house. That's definitely not the case. I have my main mortgage, but I also have my mortgage on a property in Nevada, and I have a mortgage on a property in Florida. Of course, my Nevada and Florida houses are rentals, so of course I take rent income in, and then that pays for the expenses over there. And I believe about $1,500 to $1,800 goes towards the rental property mortgages. So you can pretty much cancel out of that equation there. The next one on my list happens to be utilities. And it seems to be like, oh my gosh, you probably have a big AC bill or an HVAC bill. That's not the case, once again. So I have $663 in utility bills, but if you break it down even further, I pay the water and electricity bill in my property in Florida because they have a joint meter. If they had separate meters, I could have them pay for separate utilities and all that, but that's also a story for a different day probably. So for me, my portion of utilities happens to come around $250 every single month if I were to average it out like through the summer months and the winter months and all that stuff. So that takes into account my gas bill, my electricity bill, my water bill, and my internet bill as well. So factor that in, you just take my utilities, $663. I pay about $250 a month out of that stuff from personal side. Everything else is covered by my rental income. Next up, I have my groceries. Some people are always shocked when they hear this number, but I pay $326 a month in groceries. This month is actually on the high side because I usually spend about $200 a month in groceries. And the way I do that is I shop a lot of different sales. I actually go to like the Food for Less, I go to Albertsons, I go to Tom Thumb, all those different stores and look at the weekly ads. And I see, oh, you got 10-pound chicken for $10. It's $1 a pound for chicken. So I obviously buy that. Look at some of the vegetables. Okay, spring onions are pretty cheap, or you got some green beans that are pretty cheap. Pick those up as well. Stock up on those a little bit and then just use them over time in different meals. Do a lot of meal planning as well, which pretty much helps in balancing out the grocery bill. And I've seen people that spend way more, but I've also seen some people that spend way less as well. Next one is my telephone bill. Unfortunately for me, once again, I'm paying $200 a month on that, but the kicker is it's a T-Mobile plan with like 10 lines on it. So I got like my uncle on it, my parents on it, my brothers on it, everybody's on that. But I do have people contributing back. So I believe my portion of that is about $80 to $90 a month of that $200. And then restaurants, I actually don't eat out a lot. Even with what I have and everything, I end up eating inside the house more. On restaurants, I spent $115, and that's pretty typical. I'm a guy that just likes to eat bubble tea and popcorn chicken, sometimes try a new restaurant, but I typically just go out to restaurants like twice a week. So mainly the weekends as well. I don't really eat out that much. Insurance, pretty important. I do insure the cars, like this Maserati behind me, and of course my other car. Both of those together come to about $106 a month on my auto policy. My home insurance policy happens to be wrapped up with the mortgage and all that, so that's not going to be seen right here. I also do have clothing and shoes. I can't remember what I bought. Maybe it's like some Levi's and maybe some new shoes because my dad was like, dude, you're wearing them down. So I just went out and bought some new shoes, I believe, in the month. Up ATM and cash, just withdrew like $80 for some miscellaneous pocket spending. Travel was $72. I believe that was a flight. I think I paid for 2 flights and they were like 36 bucks a piece. Next up, online services, 34 bucks. No idea what that is. Gasoline and fuel, 31 bucks. I didn't drive really that month, and a lot of the stuff is pretty close by, so not really a hot month for gas either. Postage and shipping, well, that just happens to be, I probably shipped something on eBay, so $8.75 there, and then 4 bucks and 32 cents on home improvement. So all in all, from $5,800, I can take away like $1,500 from the mortgage of my other properties, and I can take away another $300 or so from the utilities. So that puts my spending at about $4,000 a month. And I try to invest half of my income and I try to spend half of my income. If I'm doing that from a take-home perspective, I feel like it's a good month. If I spend more than that, I still have a buffer to which I could pretty much spend 2 months worth of expenses in the same month because I split my paychecks down in half. Like, think about it this way. My paycheck on the 15th goes straight towards my bills, and my paycheck on the 30th goes straight to saving. At least that's how I budget, and I hope you guys find that useful. Well, thank you very much for watching. Hope you find this informative. But until then, I hope to see you in the next video. Goodbye.